Hello, welcome back to Corridors of Time. Today's video is going to be for a Titan build on Arc. We're going to be taking advantage of Heart of Inmost Light, where we're going to be able to gain up to 800% enhanced melee, grenade, and class ability energy. And with the artifact mods this season, we're going to have flexibility to be able to take advantage of more ad clear with unraveling rounds. We have other options like Dragon's Breath as well for additional grenade energy via fire sprites to be able to take advantage of as well. There's a lot of options for flexibility in this build in terms of just pure damage, as well as different ways to generate additional ability energy by capitalizing on different armor mods and artifact mods. So let's begin breaking down this video and get into the Arc Titan Heart of Inmost Light build. So with Heart of Inmost Light, the basic breakdown is that using an ability will empower your other two abilities, which means that they get faster regen or more damage if it's a melee or grenade. This buff lasts for 5 seconds. We can see that an empowered melee can deal either 10% or 20% increased damage. An empowered grenade can deal 20% or 35% increased damage. And we're also able to get up to a 50% additional base regen for our class ability. So using one empowers the others. So let's take a look and see exactly how those work hand in hand. So we're over in the Lost sector testing on Carl. When I get this class ability, I'm going to use Thruster. That empowers both my melee and my grenade to have additional regeneration and deal additional damage. Now, on the screen, you saw empowered melee and empowered grenade. That meant they were getting the bonus damage, depending on whether they were ×1 or ×2. And then they were getting either the 400% or 800% additional regeneration rates. Next, we're going to get into the aspects and fragments, but if you are enjoying this video and you do like the content that we're creating here, please consider liking and subscribing and turning on notifications for the video. Now, the first place that we want to start for the subclass is the grenade ability. For this build and using this exotic, we're going to make sure that we're using the pulse grenade. Did get a 20% damage bonus increase in Lightfall, and so it is the best ability that we can use because it also generates Ionic traces. When we're looking at the grenade ability tied into the aspect, we have Touch of Thunder as our first aspect. Now, the Storm Grenade took a huge nerf, so that's not going to be our choice. The Lightning Grenade is based for PvP gameplay. The Flashbang Grenade is a utility grenade, similar to a Suppressor Grenade, and it's not that you can't use that in this build, it's that we're empowering our abilities for additional damage, so Pulse Grenade becomes the ideal grenade of choice, because it also generates those Ionic traces periodically as it damages targets and increases in damage over time. So its damage and time increase is also going to take advantage of the Heart of Inmost Light Overflowing Light exotic perk. Now, you can use the jump ability of your choosing here, whatever your preference may be. But when it comes to the class ability, the thing that we need to take into consideration here is that the Thruster ability has a base cooldown of 36 seconds. So we're able to take advantage of using this ability much more frequently, which means we can get our grenades much more frequently, as well as our melees, because of the way that Heart of Inmost Light works. So the recommended choice is to use Thruster. Thruster is going to enable us to have more damage output. Knockout is the second aspect in the build, and Knockout is more for survivability, because when we critically wound a target or break their shield, our melee attacks get more range and more damage. More damage is always good because that pairs well with Heart of Inmost Light, but defeating a target with a melee gives us health regeneration. So there's a great way to use your base melee when your charged melee is off cooldown to be able to keep yourself regenning and surviving in dense encounters. So with Spark of Magnitude, all it's really doing is increasing the duration by about 2 seconds for that Pulse Grenade, which means it ramps up with more additional damage from the Touch of Thunder aspect, which gives us the ability to create additional Ionic traces as well. Spark of Ions basically gives us an additional Ionic trace anytime we defeat a jolted target. The way that we would be able to jolt a target is through Spark of Shock through our grenade. So we're doubling up basically on ways to make Ionic traces. And then the last fragment is for that survivability that pairs with Knockout that we mentioned previously. When you are surrounded, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and this also scales and works in conjunction with your tier 10 resilience. Just makes you a little bit more tanky and able to survive, really dense, heavy enemy fire encounters. Next, we'll talk about the armor mods to round out the build, but if you are enjoying this build, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We also have a Discord that you can join to support us. Starting off on our armor mods, we're on the helmet, and we do run one copy of Harmonic Siphon. Now, this is when we are using a primary exotic or any primary ammo weapon that is arc. That way, we're going to be able to create orbs of power upon rapid weapon final blows. Now, if we are using a strand primary, then go with strand siphon, and you can most likely get rid of the dynamo mod here to be able to fit that in if you can't fit that mod in. If we're using a solar primary, the same thing. So just change it up based on what you're doing. But if you are using an arc primary, I recommend going with this setup here of dynamo. That way, when we do use dynamo next to an enemy, we are going to be able to get a reduction in our super cooldown. I also run heavy ammo finder here as well, and then that copy of Harmonic Siphon. On the arms, I'm running one copy of Bowstring Detonation to be able to get extra class ability when we cause damage with our grenade. Then we have one copy of Impact Induction. Causing damage with a powered melee is going to reduce our grenade cooldown. Then one copy of Grenade Kickstart that will take advantage of our armor charges in the build, providing us additional grenade ability energy. Anytime we throw a grenade, it will consume our armor charges and grant us additional energy based on how many armor charges we have. The chest is pretty basic here. I'm just running a triple stack of resistance mods. Now you can change this up and we can make sure that we fit in different mods based on the activities that we're doing. So feel free to mix and match there. On the legs is where things get a little bit more intricate. To begin with the basics, one copy of Recuperation. You're going to be able to get 70 HP anytime you pick up an orb of power. Then we have one copy of Innervation to be able to get some grenade energy each time we pick up an orb of power as well. With Elemental Charge, collecting an Ionic Trace will give us an escalating chance to grant an armor charge to ourselves. Every third Ionic Trace we collect will provide us with an armor charge. We are able to make 3 off of one grenade, and that is enough to give us 1 armor charge. Then we have the ability to make additional orbs of power through using Reaper, and with the short cooldown from Thruster, we're going to be able to then generate an orb of power from our next weapon final blow. So that in tandem is the 2 ways that we generate armor charges, through a weapon final blow with Reaper. Then on our helmet, we have rapid arc weapon final blows, or whatever element of your choosing is going to generate an orb of power as well. And then we have Elemental Charge, which is also going to provide armor charges from every third Ionic Trace that we collect. Now then, to round out the mark is 2 copies of Bomber, just because this is a grenade-centered build. Now, if you're watching this in Season 23, this is going to be a very quick rundown of the artifact perks that we're using here. This is going to allow either primary sidearms or Indebted Kindness, the rocket pistol sidearm, to be able to deal with anti-barriers. Overload Auto Rifle, this is chosen for when we use Quicksilver Storm as our primary ammo weapon of choice. Make sure you take From Whence You Came, and then you can take Origin Perk Specialization 1 and Origin Perk Specialization 2. This is going to help with Subjunctive, which is a very powerful arc SMG that we got craftable this season. And this is going to help with the Scatter Signal, which is a strand rapid fire fusion rifle. Then we have Wished into Being, which is going to help when our super is nearly fully charged. We'll be able to get Final Blows, spawning orbs of power. The ability Final Blow will spawn 3 orbs and pretty much top you off. Then we have Unraveling Orbs. This helps when we're using Scatter Signal as our special kinetic weapon, and then any arc primary or solar primary weapon in our energy slot. Then I make sure to use Overload Rocket Launcher to double down on stunning Overload champions. We're going to use our rocket launcher as well as our grenade. I take advantage of Horde Shuttle. When we unravel a target, we can also spawn a Threadling on them. And if you're not solo, you can take Argent Ordnance. And if you are solo, you can take Solo Operative. Lastly on the screen here are loadouts that I've been using to clear lost sectors or do dungeons. These are going to be the preferred method for stunning Overload champions, barrier champions, having Boss DPS, Burst DPS, all the different options that you can have here. Using weapons like Quicksilver Storm, and the artifact perk gives us access to an unlimited amount of unraveling rounds as well. So there's some options there for you, but that's going to wrap up the build video. I thank you guys all so much for watching. Take care. Peace.